Thank you for taking 10 to join CNN 10 for 10 minutes of international news. And just so we're on the same page, Fridays are awesome. I'm Carl Azuz. We're happy to have you watching. We're starting in the Asian country of China, the world's most populated nation, and some parts of it have seen 2 red alerts already this year. What is a red alert? It's China's strongest warning about air quality. One of the recent red alerts was for smog. In more than 20 Chinese cities, schools were closed earlier this week. Factories were shut down. Vehicles that give off a lot of pollution were banned from the roads. And then yesterday, China's northern and eastern regions received their first ever red alert for fog. Visibility was severely limited in some areas. Pilots and sailors were told to be careful. Drivers were told to slow down. Air pollution is an ongoing problem in many parts of China, and it's usually worse in winter. Cold air inversions in the atmosphere can trap smog close to the ground, and more coal is burned in cold weather to keep heaters running. A congressional hearing yesterday in Washington, D.C. focused on global cyber threats, and almost all of it centered on Russia, which the Obama administration accuses of hacking into American computer systems and interfering in last year's U.S. election. A Republican senator said, quote, "Every American should be alarmed by Russia's attacks on our nation." A Russian government spokesman said his country was sick and tired of people, quote, irresponsibly blaming everything on Russia. Taking a look at Russian President Vladimir Putin, what makes him tick?
Some have argued Vladimir Putin could be the most powerful man in the world. Not everyone sees him that way, but Putin has powerful levers he's often willing to use, including cyber power, military might, and a cult of personality. Together, they form an often effective web of influence. While Moscow denies its highly skilled hackers tried to influence the US election, they've also been accused of spying and causing big disruptions in other countries like Estonia and Ukraine, claims Russia also rejects. Russia's enormous hacking power, state and criminal, isn't new. It traces back to the USSR, when its universities were designed to produce world-class engineers. Putin's power is also hugely enhanced by his very personal control of Russia's vast military. Much of it, including the nukes, is also a Soviet legacy. So Putin is pumping extraordinary amounts of money into modernization. But most analysts agree Russia's conventional forces are still only mighty enough to project power close to its borders. Russia also used limited air power to successfully prop up the Syrian regime. Critics say that worked because of Putin's willingness to indiscriminately bombard civilian areas, something Moscow denies. One of the biggest sources of Putin's power is his own extraordinary popularity at home. The more other world leaders criticize him, the more Russians celebrate their president. His approval figures soared with Ukraine and spiked again with Syria. The reason many Russians really care about their country's ability to influence world events, even if it comes with sanctions and a hit to their own quality of life. They're proud of it. Putin also benefits from a political system and a media landscape with zero tolerance for criticism. So no doubt Vladimir Putin is powerful and unpredictable, but he's also limited by some pretty big problems. The Russian economy isn't going anywhere. That's why there's another popular theory about Putin and his web of influence. He's someone who plays a weak hand very well.
10-second trivia. What do all drone bees have in common? Are they all males, females, worker bees, or carpenter bees? While the queen and worker bees are all females, it's the drones who are all males. But bees are disappearing worldwide. Scientists' theories as to why include a mite that attacks bees, pesticides that kill the insects, habitat loss, and even bad nutrition for bees. And the cause for concern goes well beyond the collapse of honeybee colonies. Bees help pollinate 35% of the world's food. The Franklin's bumblebee alone would help pollinate cranberries, blueberries, and melons. But that type of bee may already be extinct.
Bee vacuum in one hand and net in the other, Robin Thorpe is on a quest.
So we're coming into the area where I last saw Franklin's.
He's searching the mountains of Oregon for Franklin's bumblebee. It's a species he's believed to be the last person on Earth to have seen alive. And he's got a sample of the bee in the back of his truck. It's from the 1950s.
And this is Franklin's, and you can see she has a black face, a little touch of whitish hair there that pretty subtle.
This is a bee that could be extinct in the wild.
Could be. I'm not willing to give up on it, but I'm hoping it's still out there under the radar.
The last time he saw it was 2006, exactly 10 years before he invited me to join him. Thorpe is 83 now, a retired professor from UC Davis, and mostly he works alone, day after day, year after year. I spent 2 days looking for Franklin's bumblebee with Thorpe. I found the work absolutely maddening.
The ones that you hear fly by your ear, I'm always suspecting, well, that must have been a Franklin's. I don't think you can put an economic value on a species. They're all priceless, really. But Franklin's is one that I've had a lot of personal investment in, and yeah, I feel an attachment and kinship to it.
I'm not sure whether he'll find it, but maybe that's beside the point. The truth is that for anyone to know a species like Franklin's bumblebee had vanished, someone like Thorpe has to be looking.
In Atlanta, Georgia, there's a giant peach that drops on New Year's Eve. It's one of many annual traditions nationwide. In Wisconsin, there's a giant cheese drop. In North Carolina, a possum drop, or at least a possum lowering. It's in a box, it's not hurt. But the most famous drop is probably at New York's Times Square. What exactly got this ball rolling?
Before we had time zones,